and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Ghosts with Sunray. Today I got a special guest, Kim. She lives in New Orleans and she's going to share some stories with us. To start off, would you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Kim, born and raised in New Orleans. Lots of experiences with the paranormal since New Orleans is known for their hoodoo, voodoo spirituality.
Yep. I want to go see you so bad. You have no idea. All right, so I know you have a special topic for us that you want to share, so I'm going to let you go ahead and dive right into it.
Sure. New Orleans is known for, uh, their famous ghosts, haunted spots. We have special cemeteries. In New Orleans, the sea level is too high, so we bury our dead in I forgot what you call them, but it's above ground,
Mm-hmm.
or else the bodies will float. Float. We've had caskets float out of the ground.
Wow.
I've seen this personally.
Oh,
Dead bodies like just chilling in the middle of a cemetery.
that would be pretty frightening to see if you didn't know what to expect.
Yes, but a specific ghoul I'd like to talk about is Madame Marie Delphine LaLaurie. She was born and raised in New Orleans, died in 1849. She had 5 children with 3 marriages. She was well known for owning slaves. And in 1834, there was a kitchen fire set by one of the slaves. And when people came to help, they noticed in her attic she had a torture chamber for her slaves. Um, they couldn't describe the things that they saw. She skinned people alive, starved them, and chained them to a wall to the point, they were just skin and bones. Um, but she, uh, they rounded her, 3 of her daughters, and her husband in. She lived in the French Quarter, very known in New Orleans for tourists, on Royal Street. They hung her 3 daughters and her husband in front of her for, punishment, and somehow she escaped and moved to Paris, and that's where she died. But they exhumed her body from Paris to New Orleans, since that's where she's from, at the St. Louis Cemetery #1. There are 2 of them because there were so many bodies back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's said that you can see and feel her ghost, when you go by her grave. I personally have. I went on a tour, I brought my cousins, the whole let's go to New Orleans tour thing. But yeah, like within 50 feet, I just felt cold and angry. Her house on Royal Street in the French Quarters is well known for people seeing shadows of slaves and what they think is her. You can take tours inside the house now. Like they renovated it. It looks just like it did when she moved out. But people personally from New Orleans know not to go anywhere near that corner, uh, because you can feel cold and anger and stress and just this negative energy that comes off of it. So we cross the street. We will not use that street.
Well, her anger and the rage and the horrible things she did holds so much energy that it's forever going to be in that location and wherever her spirit roams. Like,
Oh, if you Google what this woman has done to people, to slaves, oh,
Mhm. And for those of you who don't know, who she's talking about is actually the true story of a character who is in the Coven and from American Horror Story. And they actually did do a pretty good job on it saying who she was and everything, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot more that they couldn't put on TV.
oh, definitely. They got maybe the last few years before she fled New Orleans to Paris.
Hmm.
So she had two previous marriages and other children they didn't show, So they did a pretty good job for a show.
Yeah, that is wild. I can't wait to get out there and experience it myself. I will be that tourist who will walk on the same side of the street. I probably won't cross purely out of the fact that I want to feel this and like
It is
have my own
intense. I've
experience.
done it. It is intense.
Yeah.
And you
And
can actually, if you're willing, you can take a tour inside of the house if you can handle it.
have you ever been inside?
Only the bottom floor. I wasn't trying to go close to the attic.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, even just hearing the stories about what happened in the attic give me the chills. And I'm several states over a century later, so um yeah, that's pretty creepy.
Another place that's well known is the Canal Hotel on Canal Street in the French Quarters. Like any room that you stay in, you take a picture, you're gonna see something, or something's gonna move, or people purposely go there because it's haunted.
It's like
The
it's a ghost hunting attraction. Definitely.
Yeah, we have ghost tours all the time. It not just Halloween. I mean, all year round.
Well, New Orleans, I can definitely see why.
Oh yeah, plenty of voodoo and hoodoo shops. You can buy voodoo dolls like on every corner.
Wow. So tell me about some of your personal stories.
Okay. My first experience was when I was about 2 or 3 when my grandmother died. I can't remember if it was right before or right after her funeral. My mom tucked me into bed and she closed the door. She heard me talking to somebody and she listened and then she opened the door. Hey, sweetie, who are you talking to? I said, oh, I'm talking to Mama. She freaked and tried to bring me to a Catholic priest to get an exorcism.
Wow. All right.
um, when I was about 8 or 9, I was possessed by some sort of spirit that constantly was in my head telling me these awful things that a child would never, you know,
Hmm.
and that I remember the day it left me. I was in the car with my mother and my sister, and I just said the most horrible things. I never cursed in my life. I was talking about killing, and I don't remember any of what I said.
Hmm.
But right after, like, I passed out and I felt better.
That was that spirit leaving you, that whatever attachment there was leaving you, definitely.
Thank God it detached itself.
Yeah. I wonder what made it detach.
Maybe it just needed to get its anger out, let somebody hear it, and then,
Be
or
done.
I wasn't a good enough vessel.
Have you ever felt, well, do you remember like the feeling of that spirit by any chance?
It felt like someone was constantly behind me. Like it felt like if my back was against the wall, it still felt like someone was leaning up against me and
Mhm.
holding down my shoulders, and someone was always talking in my head in a different voice.
Wow. Have you ever
My
felt like
mom thought I was my mom thought I was schizophrenic. She didn't believe me.
Yeah, schizophrenia is often mistaken. A lot of gifted people and spiritual people who can actually see the other side,
Hmm.
and hear things and talk to spirits are often mistaken as schizophrenics. Um,
Right.
yeah, I did big research on it and everything, and medicine men actually think that every person who has schizophrenia is spiritually inclined. They have the gift, they can see the other side, and they will go and heal them and give them all of these things so that their abilities can be heightened and they can then turn around and help the world.
I love that.
I do too. My grandfather had schizophrenia. So now that I'm digging into my spirituality and learning about this stuff, I often wonder if he was talking to angels and stuff.
Good.
And like he had a whole journal and everything and entries. Like it was, this whole journal looked like an iMessage or a group chat.
Hmm.
And he would all do it on his computer and they would talk back and forth through the computer and he would document it all. And they would remind him about my birthday and wish him good luck on the holidays and things like that. So, looking back and knowing what I know, I do wonder if my grandfather was just extremely gifted.
My godson, when he was 3, he was staring at a corner at his dad's old house that he grew up in. He was just staring at a corner, and we said, "Sweetie, what are you looking at?" He said, "You don't see Peepaw? Peepaw was his dad's grandfather that died when his father was young.
Wow.
There's no way he would know his name. He described what he looked like,
Hmm.
and I think the gift in my family, because my grandmother had it too with me with the clairvoyance. I think my godson has it, but he tries to hide it.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful when you see other family members, especially as children, and seeing their grandparents that they've never met before or who passed before they were even born. Like that just shows you how strong that lineage is, that
Oh
family
yes.
line. And it's I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think it's scary whatsoever.
Oh,
Okay,
not at all.
now if I ran into Marie's spirit, I'd be terrified. But in other aspects, a lot of spiritual encounters I think are beautiful.
Yeah, but be careful when you go to Marie's house. People have been known to come out with scratch marks and bite marks.
Hmm.
That's like a big thing. It's not just a feeling. Some people actually it's strong enough where they have scratches and bites. So yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. And when I go, I will make sure to wear the right crystals, protect myself with Reiki, and call on Archangel Michael.
You will need it for the cemetery too.
Mhm. Anytime I do any kind of spiritual investigations or, anything like that, and I go to places that I know have activity, I protect myself very well. So
Good girl.
yeah. I've had an attachment before and that was pretty scary. So I don't ever want anything like that again.
Same here.
Yeah, obviously. When you were 9.
Yeah, that's a little much to go through.
Yeah. So do you think after you had that attachment, do you think your abilities got stronger?
Definitely. And my mother and father weren't the type to really believe in that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Like my dad was kind of superstitious because my grandmother was an old Creole woman, she believed in hoodoo, voodoo, taught me a little bit before she died.
Hmm.
But yeah, it definitely got stronger after that.
I think that, when you experience things like that as a child, because when we're younger, our brains are still open. We haven't been
Exactly.
told to ignore it or not believe it or it's not real or anything like that yet. So our minds are just so much more open to it. And I think when you
And
have those.
they say children are pure also, and
Mhm.
it's easier to for spirits to connect with pure entities.
Hmm. And I think that, having experiences like that opens that door permanently.
Yes.
Hmm. All right. Any other stories you want to share?
Um, I mean, I've lived in the same house for 30 years or so. Pretty much grew up in the house. I've had all kinds of little things happen, like I'll know I put something in the living room, and then an hour later I'll find it in the kitchen, or the TV turns off and on by itself, or the thermostat. One time I went to go change it, and it's an old school one with the little needle. The
Hmm.
needle was just going like this. I wasn't touching it, and I just felt cold. That's why I went to change it, and it was just
Hmm.
I left that night. That did not feel right. Uh, the other ones I honestly think are just my grandparents screwing with me, because my grandfather was known. He was born the day after April Fool's, so he was a jokester.
Hmm.
So I go in the kitchen right next to the living room. The TV will turn on, and I'm like, really, Papa?
Well, and you said that
But
they were gifted too, right?
who?
Are these the same grandparents that had the gift too?
Yes, yes.
So them being on the other side, knowing you do too, they're like, "Oh, hey, Kim,
Oh,
look at
definitely.
me."
My grandfather messes with me too. I don't even care anymore. Like something will just knock over or move, and I'm like, please not today.
Not today. Not
Like it's
today, Grandpa.
my my sister a few years back. She came over to visit after she moved out, had her first kid, and out of nowhere the TV turned on, and she freaked out. And I was just sitting there like, oh, it's Papa again. What do you mean it was Papa? She's like freaking out. She's like, you're not freaking out. I said, no, it happens all the time. How do you do this? I said, I've seen them. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have told you that. Like I've seen, especially these two children at the foot of my bed, and I found out through somebody that the people who owned the house before us died in a fire. They didn't say whether it was children, adults, or both, but since I was young, I've always seen these two children, and it's usually only at the foot of my bed. I don't know if they just like to watch me sleep, maybe protecting me. I don't know, but
Maybe to them, you're sleeping in their bed.
yeah, that could have been their room. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't
Very
think about that.
interesting. Very interesting. I like, I mean, it's sad that those children are ghosts. It's sad that they
Mhm.
didn't get to live a full life, but when you see things like that and then it gets validated, I think that's such a powerful feeling.
Oh yes.
You're like, "Oh, I'm not crazy." Like I actually did put these pieces together and I'm validated. Like this is real.
Oh yeah, the first time, I saw one, I'm like, I'm seeing things, and then when they're sitting there, for half an hour, like they're not going away, or the first time you feel someone touch you
Hmm.
or pass through you, I know you know that feeling
Yeah.
when someone passes through you.
The touches and that passing through me feeling, you never get used to that.
No, it takes you a while to shake it off too.
Like,
It takes a lot of your energy.
like, the touches on my back. I get that quite often and sometimes on my shoulder. And it takes me a second. It'll happen, I'll just carry on and then I'm like, "Whoa, wait a second."
I get them constantly on my chest.
Mhm.
It's like someone's just pushing down on my chest, like trying to stop me from breathing or something,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
then let go.
I always feel it on my back and then on my shoulder. And honestly, right here, my shoulder. So my granny, Joy, her name was Joy,
Hmm.
and she was every bit of her name. She was the most beautiful soul you'd ever met. And she
Hmm.
told me before she died, because we were super close. We used to tell each other we were soulmates because of how close we were.
Yeah.
And before she passed away, she told me, she goes, "Honey, I just want you to know that I'll always be right here on your shoulder." And she put her hand on my shoulder. And I was like, "Oh, Granny, and I cut her off. I was like, "I don't want to talk about this. Like, you're not going to be leaving me, okay?" And uh, a couple months later, I went and I stole her signature off of something, and I actually got her signature tattooed on my shoulder.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I actually got to show her before she died. I got to show her the tattoo, and I was like, "Because you told me you'd always be here on my shoulder." And now that she's passed on, I still see her. She's one of my spirit guides. So she's still always with
Hmm.
me. She's my soul family, no doubt. We've been together in many lives.
Yeah.
But I do think that when I feel it on my shoulder, I do think it's her. I feel like it's her. I
Well,
feel comforted and safe and nurtured
that's good
almost.
that you know the difference between the good touches and the bad touches with
Definitely.
with ghosts.
Definitely. And you do. It's an energy. It's a vibe. Most definitely.
A strong one at that.
hmm And I mean, I've been in places and situations where I've just felt so uneasy and uncomfortable. Like you get a nauseous feeling. And
I know it's like my equilibrium gets off. I get dizzy,
hmm
and I just feel like whoa, I need to move from wherever this is.
hmm I'll get shaky sometimes. Like I'll almost go into like an anxiety attack where I'm starting to hyperventilate and I get really shaky and my whole body just trembles.
There's
Those are,
one part of my house that I hate. I try to run through. It's the end of the hallway near my parents' room. I don't know what it is about that small space right there, but I it always gives me that feeling when I stand there
so
since I was little.
in this area, it's in a hallway. I'm taking it. It's in the back hallway where no windows are.
Right,
Is there a light fixture right there?
close by. Yep.
So what I think about corners like that in places that have high activity is they get trapped in that corner. That energy is just bouncing off the wall back and forth.
That makes
So
sense.
I often feel like the energy is heavier in corners than in the middle of a room or a room right next to a window. And if there's any kind of outlet or light fixture or anything electricity wise, they feed off of that, and it puts off energy too. So it's also, a give and take between the spirits and bouncing off of each other.
That makes a lot of sense. I've cleansed my house so many times. I don't know why I can't help it. Just
Some spirits just don't want to go. I've always thought of it this way, like maybe they're not bad spirits for one. They have all good intentions. And two, that place was their heaven at one point.
right.
And that's how I think of it. Like when a spirit doesn't want to quite leave
Hmm.
and it doesn't know where it wants to go, because honestly, every spirit can go. You can travel, you're omnipresent, you can be here and there everywhere all at once.
Right.
But I think it's often a factor of, does that spirit know that?
Hmm.
And is this just where they want to be? Is this where they had the happiest times of their life, their happiest moments, their happiest feelings? Like, is that their heaven? And
Right.
maybe they just don't want to go. So usually, typically with spirits like that, I won't kick out. I'll be like, "You're good. This is your home. This is your heaven. As long as you don't harm me, I won't make you leave."
Yeah, that's like my grandparents, you know. I know I'm fine. They're
Mhm.
protecting me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sounds like you got some tricksters in the house, which could be those kids.
Yeah, I think so.
That sounds fascinating. And I know it's not always an easy feeling. No matter how good the spirit is, sometimes it's just uncomfortable.
It is, especially I already have bad anxiety, you know, so if
Mhm.
I'm already having kind of an attack and they choose to do it then to make it worse, I'm just like I
Mhm.
need beyond medication and meditation.
Medication and meditation. Uh, yeah, I remember growing up, I've always been a sensitive and I've lived in a lot of houses that were had a high activity like yours. And then like if you've seen my grandma's house episode, we all grew up together in this house that had a portal in it. So I know what those feelings feel like. And I used to sleep with my TV on because the energy from the TV mutes the energy from the ghosts.
Right.
So,
Actually, the neighborhood that I live in, they turned an old plantation. I live on River Road. It's where a lot of the old plantations were in the 1700s. In my part of New Orleans area,
mhm,
but they turned the plantation 3 blocks from my house into a library by the park. Rumor has it that everything from behind the library on for a few blocks used to be a cemetery. So that makes a lot of sense.
mhm. That's crazy. We have a park out here like that. I should have taken you there when you were here with me. But it's called Cheeseman Park, and it's downtown in Crown Hill, Denver area. And
Mhm.
it used to be a cemetery way back in the day. And this park is bumpy, has a lot of hills. And they say that on those hills is where there's still bodies.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, and they never got all of the bodies out of that park. And it's kind of horrific because when they were removing the bodies, they were shuffling them out so fast that the caskets were breaking. So they were just shoving bones and limbs in every which direction. So these poor souls are everywhere. How they got
Wow.
up there, I'm not even sure what happened to the bodies and where they went. I just know it used to be a cemetery. They took the dead bodies out and made it a public park.
Unless they know specifically what person it is, they usually do mass graves, unfortunately. And with that many riled up spirits
Mhm.
together, oy.
Yeah, I've read some stories because there's houses and apartments all around this park, and I've read a lot of stories where people will be like, "Yeah, I'll be looking in the mirror and somebody will walk behind me."
Mm.
And they still find bones in that park to this day, and it's been, oh, I think that park's been around at least 50, 60 years. I'm going to say at a very minimal 50, 60 years
Mm.
is how long that park has been there.
Oof.
Yes, very morbid and creepy. But hey, a whole bunch of people have a new place to jog.
Yeah, really. Literally dancing on people's graves.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I've always wanted to go and ghost hunt there, but being in Denver, unfortunately, it's you can't really be out at night anymore.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I got several
Yeah.
other places all over. But
Probably not a good idea anyway.
no. All right, Kim. Well, thank you so much. Was there anything else you wanted to share before we tune off?
No, if anyone wants to know more about the haunted history of New Orleans, I'll try to get some notes together, maybe for a special episode. We have Mardi Gras coming up next month. You see a little sign that my for my sister.
That is awesome. So what
Yeah,
does
we
that
have
sign
Mardi
say?
Gras stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just asking what the sign said.
Crew of Nakan. Her married name is Nakan.
Oh, I
So
believe that.
we name our floats crew of Babylon, crew of that. So she made a little sign with their last name.
That is adorable. I love it. When is that coming up?
It is February, I think 23rd. They call it Fat Tuesday, and that's actually named by cat. Fat Tuesday.
That Tuesday. Oh my
Tuesday.
gosh. I
Fat
love it.
Tuesday, Mary Jane. But it's
Well, I'm not too sure what happened there. My recording program just kind of shut down on us and disconnected us completely. So my apologies for that. We will get Kim back on the show one of these days. It was an amazing interview with her today. I had a lot of fun, and I seriously could have kept talking forever. But yeah, that was my episode with Kim. Stay tuned for more. If you want to share some stories, you can email me at letstalkghost22@gmail.com. I'd love to hear stories, submit videos, audio type stories, or you could just be on the show like Kim was today. I hope you all have a creepy night. Keep it spooky. Till next time.